A man stood in a pit outside Cambridge, England, for over 1,000 years. He was 6'5", in a time when the average man barely cleared 5'6", and on the back left of his skull was a hole, 3 centimeters wide, with edges that had healed. Someone cut into his head while he was alive, and he survived it. Then, years later, someone threw him into a pit with 9 other men, some of them in pieces. This isn't fiction. This happened, and archaeologists are still trying to figure out exactly what it means. In the summer of 2025, a group of Cambridge archaeology students showed up for what was supposed to be a training dig, the kind where you learn technique, not history. Olivia Courtney, a third-year undergraduate from Bath, later said their best find for most of the dig was a 1960s Smarties lid. Then they hit the pit. 4 meters long, 1 meter wide, 10 people inside, but not buried the way 10 people are supposed to be buried. 4 complete skeletons, laid out whole. Next to them, a cluster of skulls with no bodies attached. And next to that, legs stacked on top of each other like they'd been sorted, not laid to rest. It was a sobering experience, said Grace Grandfield, another Cambridge student on the dig, to identify ever more disarticulated bones and realize the extent of the suffering that had taken place. Some bodies were face down. Wrist positions suggested binding. One jaw had clean chop marks, a beheading. Archaeologists now think the pit connects to the 9th century wars between Saxons and Vikings, fought over land that Wandlebury sat right in the middle of. But one skeleton didn't fit the pattern, not because of how he died, because of who he'd been. He was somewhere between 17 and 24. And he was almost a foot taller than every single person he would have known. Every neighbor, every rival, everyone he ever stood across from in a doorway or a fight. Dr. Trish Beers, who studied the remains at Cambridge's Duckworth collections, found something in his limb bones. Unusual thickness, growth patterns that pointed to excess growth hormone. Likely a tumor on the pituitary gland. Left alone, that condition causes exactly what you'd expect. Constant headaches. Pressure building inside the skull with nowhere to go. Which is probably why there's a hole in his head. It's called trepanation. Cutting or scraping directly into a living skull. No anesthesia, no antibiotics, no germ theory. Just someone with a blade. And apparently enough knowledge to do it and not kill him. The bone around the hole had healed. He didn't just survive the procedure. He lived with it for months, maybe years afterward. Somebody, more than 1,000 years ago, looked at a boy in pain and decided to open his skull to help him. And it worked. And then, at some point later, he ended up face down in a pit anyway. The archaeologists leading the dig, Dr. Oscar Aldred and his team, aren't rushing to call this a battlefield grave. The injuries don't quite match combat. What they're looking at instead is something closer to public punishment. Wandlebury was a known meeting place in the region, which raises the possibility that whatever happened here happened in front of people. DNA testing is underway now. Nobody yet knows if this young man was Saxon, Viking, or something in between. Just one more person caught on a border that didn't much care who you were before it decided what would happen to you. What's left is this: a boy who was different from everyone around him, who was saved once by someone's steady hands, and who still ended up here,